I gotta think of what I'm gonna say. Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Coffee with Father James. I'm coming to you from the foyer of St. Peter's Church at Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish. I know lots of names, but we're here, and this is the welcome booth where we welcome people. We usually have a laptop here. It's a place where people can come with any questions or inquiries, but some of you may be new to the parish and may not know that this mark on the floor that you see and this mark on the ceiling is a demarcation point of what used to be a baptistry. There was actually a whole wall of wood and glass, and the only opening to come into the church was right here. And the doors that are presently over there used to be right here. So why did we do this? Well, we removed the wall to give us space. And as you've already experienced, we can get quite a number of people in this new foyer. It's a place to gather. It's a place in which we can gather and have conversation and chat with people and keep the door closed so that inside can be relatively quiet. It can be a place of prayer. People can pray. You want to talk? You come on out here. You can hang out and talk. The other idea of this space was, well, to help families who might have, families that might have children, but families that might have children who have difficult moments, shall we say, at Mass. And now, speaking as a celibate, I don't have any direct experience of noisy kids at Mass, but I know many families and many young couples who are faithful people who are trying to raise their children, bring their kids to church, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. It's tough for a number of reasons. It's because, every parent wants their child to be well behaved, and it's always a little bit embarrassing when your kid acts like, a kid in front of other people, especially at church. It can also be very frustrating for families because parents themselves want to get something out of church. They go there to be fed, and when you have a child who's upset, it's very hard to focus, and you're left thinking, why do I bother? I'm not getting anything out of this. I might as well stay home and watch it on live stream. It can be also incredibly difficult because of the reaction of other people. Now, let's be brutally honest about this. Have you ever gotten impatient with a family with young children? Have you ever maybe looked askance, looked over, given a disapproving look, even the look on your face? Parents see that. They see these expressions. Sometimes church is not the most welcoming place for little kids. And then the final thing is think of all the work it is to get kids ready for church, especially if you get lots of small children. And if you're like, well, I brought my kids to church in the 1960s. Well, guess what? You didn't have car seats in the 1960s. There's a lot more rules than there were in the 60s. The 60s, you just threw all your kids in the trunk of the car and drove them to church. My point being is, for young couples who bring young children to Mass, it's an incredible amount of work. It's an incredible amount of energy, of turmoil, of stress even. And I think as a church, we need to recognize that. We need to be extraordinarily patient and kind and caring of young families. Now, that being said, I want to turn and maybe address parents with young children. And if I think it's 80% on the rest of the church to be kind and patient and supportive of parents, I think 20% it's also on parents to be mindful and patient with the rest of us, because, you live with your kids, you're used to them. We don't live with them, and we're not used to them. And for many parishioners, it's been many, many decades since they've had boisterous children. And sometimes it can be a shock. And I think if we're so used to our kids being kids, we forget how unused to it other people are. So what I'm asking for is mutual respect. I think 80% of the onus is on the parish as a whole because of the extraordinary effort that parents make. Incredible, 80%. But the 20% on the other side of parents. So I'm going to risk doing something that maybe I shouldn't do, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to attempt to provide some guidelines around young children in Mass. Number one guideline, you come. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh boy, what's a church without kids running around? You know, one of my most favorite things is when I see young children being children at Mass. I see some of them dancing and maybe running around and just being kids. It gives me so much joy. So come. I can't tell you how to feel, but I hope that you feel welcome, even though your kid is probably going to act like a kid. It's okay. You're most welcome. Now, I've been a priest for almost 26 years, and I've got a little bit of experience doing Mass with kids around, and I've developed my own little kind of measuring system. So on a scale of 1 to 10 of kid freak out, okay, so here's my advice. Anything up to a level 7, don't worry about it. Like, seriously, level 7 freak out, we can manage level 7 freak out, okay? Anything level 7 or down is like, that's normal kid behavior. Don't worry too much. Level 8, that's when you might want to think about a momentary intervention. Level 9, level 10 freak out, I think that's kind of like, it requires immediate attention. So that's my recommendation. Up until level 7, don't worry. Please don't worry. Don't put too much energy into it. But when it gets beyond that, it really becomes a question of, okay, what's best for everyone, and maybe the best thing is just a momentary change of scenery. Over the years in churches, people have asked, are you going to we should have what used to be called a crying room. Do you know what a crying room is? It's like the in-between space between purgatory and hell, okay? That's a crying room. I have memories as a kid with my younger sister being in one of those rooms. It was horrible. Stuffed in this little space with screaming kids, and you can't hear anything, and the homily was boring anyway. No, not interested. The whole idea, philosophy of a crying room, I think is terrible, terrible. What we want is to create a space. I don't know, maybe a space like a foyer? So that if your child gets to level 8 or 9, come on out here. Just come out into the foyer for as long as it takes. Let the child run around. They can run around. In fact, come on over here, I'll show you. You can even sit down in our foyer, in a comfy chair, very comfy chair. And look, this just was installed 2 weeks ago. We have TV screens that is directly hooked into the live stream camera system. So you can, during every Mass, the main camera is switched on with the audio. So you'll hear everything. You can still participate. And during the 11 a.m. Mass, when we do the live stream, you have all the camera switching. So come on out here. It's not a crying room. We don't want you to be in a crying room. Come out here. Once your child is calmed down, come back in and join us. Come right back in. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And I recognize that my words may have been a little bit of challenging to everyone. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is to the rest of us, those of us who don't have young children, to be patient, to be welcoming, to be mindful of our whole attitude. What's the inner disposition we have? If we're going to be a welcoming church, my goodness, we've got to support these young families, young parents who are doing the best they can, the incredible effort they're making in our culture to not just come to church, but to bring their kids here. To me, it's tremendous, and we need to respect that, and we need to support it. And then the little bit on the other side is just to say to parents, please be patient with us old crusty folks who might be out of practice with children, and that we've built you a place. This was one of the main reasons. Yes, it's a great place to connect with people before Mass and after Mass, but one of the things that we had in our minds, especially with putting in the screens and the audio and a place to sit, is use this space when your child needs a bit of a break, when your child doesn't want to be constrained and contained on a hard pew. Come on out here and let them cut loose a little bit. So I hope that's helpful to you, and God bless you all.